What up, though, people? It is your boy, Brandon Dent, also known as Detroit Kool-Aid, and this is the Woodward Pistons podcast. This morning, Jeff Freddy, he's out on location right now, filming the actually live on the Morning Woodward show as we speak. But we do got, we'll do the drum roll. You already know what it is. Hey, yo, we got the legend in the building this morning, Detroit News, Rod Beard. Brother, how's it going this morning? Did you get that coffee?
I haven't had the coffee yet. I just knew you were going to say Jeff is off filming Beverly Hills Cop again. Come on, Morning Woodward show. That's normal stuff for him. That dude is in. I guarantee he's in Beverly Hills Cop. When we see that thing, and he's going to be the guy walking by, or he might even have a line. He worked his way into something. That dude's big time now.
Jeff is big time. He really is big time, man. You know, I know his pod, Jeff and Gentry, is blowing up. From Half Court is blowing up. The work that he does here is blowing up, as well as Morning Woodward show. I'm proud of him. I'm happy for him. But you know, this Dunder Mifflin shirt, it's not just by coincidence. It's not. I'm actually in the office, Jeff. Where are you?
Exactly. he's got a Mumford physical ed shirt on. He hanging out with Eddie.
Oh man, yo. He's gonna love this too. I already know it, man. He hits me up every time, like, dog, man, y'all going in on me. I love it. Keep it up.
Every time.
He was like, yo, I know Rod loves me, man. I know it now.
Yeah, I love him better when he shows up for a show.
I love this, man. I love it.
Availability is the best ability.
Hey, I like that one. That's probably one of my favorite Caseyisms. One of my favorites. And you know what? The Pistons, they beat the Heat last night, 116-96. 20-point victory, bro. Look, and they held the team under 100 points for the first time in the win this year. They did held, I don't know if you want to say they held the Clippers under 100 points. They lost to them, 96-91 earlier in the year. That was just kind of a weird, sloppy game. This one, I saw intentional, tough defense on the perimeter and in the paint. I was pleased with it. And last night, it was about the availability. You know, with those three big men back, I think we saw our best kind of defensive game out of that rotation with Casey being able to go to those bigs. I saw Stewart and Durham really getting some minutes together, and I do think it disrupted some things for the Miami Heat. I don't know what their game plan was coming in, but the Pistons looked like they definitely knew how to neutralize whatever they were going to throw at them. And I thought the man-to-man defense tonight was probably one of the best that I've seen all season.
Yeah, it's a work in progress constantly. You're going to get some ups and downs. With just concentration and focus and being able to do it. And let's be clear that the Heat didn't have Jimmy Butler, so they weren't at full strength. So this isn't everything has to be taken with sort of a grain of salt, and it's a data point. But a win is a win. And if you go into Miami and you win by 20, that's not something that happens very often either.
Without Cade, too.
Yeah, injuries are just part of this thing now. It's just what are you going to get? And without Cade and with Killian starting, and I think we're starting to see some signs of life from Killian that it was just 6 points and 6 assists, but that's what I thought. I think that's the better side of Killian, is not this sort of 17, 18 points, but more the 10 and 6 sort of thing. If you get that from him, then that's doing pretty well.
Yeah, definitely with Killian. That was a game last night where he didn't really get many complaints. When I looked at the box score and saw 6 points, I was like, okay. Like, I thought it was more. His impact was all over the court, and his defense was he's looking confident, Rod. He's looking confident. He's looking like he's very, very sure of himself. When he's missing shots, I don't see him hanging his head. I see him doing stuff like this. Like, that's different out of a player versus, oh, dang it. You see him look like y'all expected to make that. And when he's coming back down and shooting the next one, it's looking like he expects to make that one. Whatever they did to his shooting form, man, you could tell it's a little bit different. Earlier in the season, he looked uncomfortable. And everybody said, why did they change his shooting form? Right now, he's looking solid. He's taking solid shots, his base, his frame, his footwork, everything, 2 feet. And the shot's looking good. And I love the role that they're playing him in. I'm starting to realize they're playing him kind of the way that they played Cade Cunningham at the one. They're allowing him to dictate his pace and his tempo. They're allowing Killian to kind of pick his spots on the floor. I know Casey said in one of the other press conferences, you know, they like him getting into that mid-range because he can hit that shot.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see him doing this, whether the scoring is there or not. When he's playing aggressive and he's playing confidently, you take that.
Yeah, and I think that's all that people ever wanted from him was just it doesn't matter as much if you get in there and make the shot, but just get in there. Things will happen. If you do it enough, defenses will have to adjust to it and they will come to you, which is where your strength comes out in being able to distribute the ball, especially when you get in the paint. But I've said this from the beginning. All the film that we saw of him playing in Europe was him getting in the paint and making floaters, making middies. That's all we saw.
That's his comfort zone.
Do the thing you're most comfortable with. And I think maybe NBA size took a little bit more for him to get adjusted to. But that's all we want to see. Go 2 of 8. If that's what you got to do, cool. But half of those shots are from 3. I'm with it. If you said, if you're slapping your hands because you expected to make that shot, that's confidence. That's saying that you wanted. That's the shot you wanted. That's the shot you took, and you feel like you can make that shot. I'm with it.
Yeah, and he was the only person on the Pistons team to get a block last night. Killian is starting to really, really prove to be somebody that you don't want to be lazy around offensively. He's starting to really get up there and smack shots away. He's getting handsy. And you know what I've noticed? As he's gotten more aggressive, as his defensive aggressiveness has come back, I'm noticing Jaden Ivey is starting to get those same type of pesky steals at the top of the key, and he's able to kind of take it in for a dunk. Sometimes setting that tone and showing people what is possible. If the referee is going to allow Killian to play aggressively, defensively at the top of the key and at the perimeter, Jaden Ivey, see if you can go out there and do the same thing too. And I'm starting to see that really, really, really start to resonate across the board. Hamidou Diallo, I gotta give him some props. He's another one of those guys who, no matter what the stats say, he's just playing his role. Every time he plays. I know he didn't play against the Miami Heat, but he's just kind of set this tone that I believe as well. If I'm going to say that what Killian is doing is setting a tone for some of the younger players. Hami's role this season, as he came into this year, he said it was kind of set a tone, be an example, go out there and play all out. He was like, I still feel like I'm young, but on this squad, I guess I'm a vet, and I'm here to show these guys how to play the right way. And I see him doing that. So I'm glad that Casey as well has continued to shout him out. I want to see him in the next game as well. The energy has been awesome, but it feels like they've gotten these rotations figured out. The starters look balanced. The bench unit look balanced. There's a lot of points off the bench for Burks, 18, Corey Joseph, 11, Sadiq Bay, 14, and Jalen Duren, another one of those guys. Didn't take many shots, 2 or 3, 4 points, 4 rebounds, but was just disruptive. I think Isaiah Stewart defensively, very, very, very disruptive, man. Very disruptive. He's getting to the point now where, they're allowing him to get some of those blocks or some of those plays where they just kind of let it go. He missed. I played good defense.
Yep, he's back.
He's starting to get those the rough to kind of look the other way on those. And you see some players, they start to want to bark and they turn around and see it was Stu hit him or something, and they just kind of run back up the court, play defense, next play. I like that. This is what we talked about. I wanted to see this team get a little bit more tough, a little bit more physical, not somewhere where you're trying to hurt somebody. But I want to see this team get to a place that we identify Detroit sports teams, not just the Pistons, but Detroit sports teams across the landscape, even our high school teams, our peewee leagues, because we're all kind of born and bred and made in that same design, harkening back to St. Cecilia Gym and what that means. You want to see these guys go out there and play hard every play. You want the opposing team to feel you every single play. How you doing, Kathy? It's our accountant. She's one of the best ladies, man. One of the best people ever. I want everybody one day to get a chance to meet Kathy. But she plays tough too. But I wanted to see this team kind of do what they did last night. It was just solid, man. And they didn't back down. They didn't look like they were second guessing on defense. You didn't see too many of the guys turning around like, oh crap, someone cut behind me. There's nobody there to help. They just looked like they knew what they were doing. I don't know necessarily what the switch or the change was. You said something pre-show. What was that word? Chemistry.
Yeah.
Chemistry. It's starting to really, really show. It's out here on full display. I'd be remiss if I didn't call out shout out Bojan. 31 points last night. 3 steals, 5 assists. That's what I mean, man. The defense was just on it last night. Marvin Bagley with 2 steals too. 7 of 9 from 3 for Bojan, just to kind of get the rest of the fill out for the game. Was there anything else that stood out to you last night? Well, with the
I
Miami
like the
Heat
27 assists on the 43 made field goals.
Yeah.
And just being able to distribute the ball and making those shots. And Alec Burks is, I'm going to say he's more than what I thought he would be. I wasn't sure of what kind of role. And Casey always talked about they needed that 3-point shooter and 4-10 last night, but it is just that guy that is not afraid to take that shot in that Wayne Ellington type mode that you know why he's out there and he's putting them up. When you see him, he's putting them up. And he has a great confidence that it's going in. And only 38% for now. But with the late start to the year, I think that's going to continue to improve. And Bojan is just 7 of 9 from 3. That dude is a bucket. Just the I didn't even look at his splits. But Bojan, it's good to see that these guys are starting to do it on the road also. Is that you can't really start to sustain anything unless you can go in somebody else's place and start winning some games. Yeah. And this road trip, if they get New Orleans tonight or Memphis is going to be a toughie. But either one of those games, and you just start to feel like they're turning a little bit of a corner. Not that this is a playoff team, I'm not going to go that far, but that they're starting to figure some things out. Bojan has one game in single digits this year against Cleveland, 6 points against Cleveland. Everything else is doubles.
Dude, just what signings? Troy Weaver, man. What acquisitions? I don't know what to say about those guys. You know, with Alec Burks, I chuckled in the middle of your statement when you were talking there because it just like my brain just registered. You're like, yeah, you know, he's only at like 38%. Like what? That's pretty good.
Yeah,
to go, Alec Burks from 3.
That'll work. Bojan, 31 points in 30 minutes. I didn't
wild,
exactly
man.
put that together either. But yes, Alec Burks is a career 38% 3-point shooter too. So it's going to start coming together. He's only played a handful of games, 13 games this year, and he's going to start figuring it out. Those when he gets Cade back and they get into a better rhythm. If they get Cade back, then they get into some kind of rhythm.
Yeah, with Bogey, obviously, we've been talking about him all year, and there's so much to like about him. I'm glad that you brought up that point of him only being in single digits one time this year. Despite any ebbs and flows throughout the course of a game with the scoring, you know he's going to give you that 20. And I'm glad that he's here. I'm going to get into him a little bit later, just with these weird hypotheticals that just pop up. But with Alec Burks, you know, you mentioned his career high. He's almost at his career high with 3-point percentage. That's not the only career highs that he has. I had to start digging into it a little bit more because I was like, I just don't really remember this Alec Burks of a player. I knew we were going to get somebody who could be a perimeter shooter, someone who's going to try hard on defense. But the ability to be a 3-level player, not just a 3-level scorer, but I mean like playmaking, shooting, and being able to play off the dribble. I didn't know we were getting that. He's right now sitting at his tied for his career high, I believe, in free throw attempts per game at 4.8 per game. That's his highest since I think going all the way back to the beginning of his career. He had a crazy dip where he was only getting about 2 to 3 attempts per game for about 5 or 6 years in a row. Now with the Pistons, he's getting this resurgence. And what's cool about it is his free throw rate, something we talked about, the Pistons needing players that had this skill. We see Sadiq Bay, his free throw rate is raising. Isaiah Stewart, his free throw rate is raising. Jaden Ivey, his free throw rate is good. Cade Cunningham's is actually up on the year. So they're starting to get the respect. Bro, do you know what Alec Burks' free throw rate is?
It's something crazy.
49.6%. This guy's getting a free throw every other shot attempt. That was Jaden Ivey in college. And I know that the season for him is 18 games right now, but it looks like it's here to stay. It looks like it's here to stay. When I looked across the board at his stats, I was just like, yo, I don't know what he was feeling coming into the season. I know his demeanor is a little bit more stoic, and so people didn't know what to read into that. They thought, does he want to be here? Does he not want to be here? He's having a resurgence. He's looking like he's having fun doing it. One more thing, I talked about this in my pregame recap last night. He and Sadiq Bay looked like they found a way to work. I know when Sadiq and Alec Burks first played together, it was a little bit of a bad game for Alec Burks. and Sadiq Bay didn't have the most efficient game, but last night, 32 points combined. They looked good. Sadiq Bay, that offensive repertoire is looking good. Another career high to point out, Sadiq Bay is up over now for 2-point field goal percentages for the first time in his career. He's up over 50%. He's at 53%. So the 3-point percentage is at about where it was last year this time for Sadiq Bay, but all of his 2-point stuff is better. Rod, I know the wins aren't there, and I know this team goes through some funky ups and downs throughout the course of a game, but I believe there's a little bit more to this team than people are really giving it credit.
Right, and you can't judge all of this on wins and losses because of the stuff we talked about, because the league is tough, because Cade's injured, because of any number of things, the other injuries that they've had in this start of the season. And for people who want to rant and rave, this is what we said. We said at the beginning of this thing, the first 10, 20 games of this are going to be difficult. They are going to struggle in the early part of the schedule. So don't feel like they have to come out here and be 13-7 for there to be progress. There's going to be progress, and you can't predict whether Cade's going to be healthy through all of this. But at the same time, you have to say, what other things have you liked about this team? You like Bogey. You like what Jaden Ivey's been doing so far. You like the acquisition of Burks, and even to about the same degree, Kevin Knox, because you didn't think there was going to be very much of anything coming from Kevin Knox. He was just a throw in and a filler, and that dude comes out and he balls. He plays hard every day.
Yep. Is he better? Would you take him over like some of these other type players? Think about the people that's played that role like Josh Jackson in the past. I think that Kevin Knox right now is trending in a little bit better direction. He's solid, man. I like him defensively. I like him running the lane. I like the attitude that he brings to the court. You know, they lost a little bit of that when they traded Josh Jackson. Kevin Knox brings that to the game, and he looks like he's happy to be here too. He looks like he's really, really happy to be here. I'm glad to see these guys playing as good as they are because we thought that they could contribute. We thought at the beginning of the season when they weren't there that had a lot to do with how this team was looking when they were struggling. Now they're here, and we're starting to see this team be competitive nightly. We're starting to see this team sneak up and get some wins. We're seeing this team start to get rhythm and chemistry and consistency as it relates to how they play. When they get Cade Cunningham back, I think that there's going to be a little bit of an adjustment period. But with how this team is playing right now and how intelligent of a player Cade Cunningham is, his ability to set people up and then pick his spots when it's best to score, I don't think that they're going to have too much of a problem there. Now, before we move on, I do got to bring up, man, some of these fans, they're killing me, man. They're killing me. The post-game report.
Don't let them do it. You can't let them do it.
Bro, listen, man, I put on there, I was like, yo, Pistons won their first game of the season where they held somebody under 100 points. That's what you want to see out of the defense. I don't care who you're playing. They've played teams worse than what we saw last night, and obviously they didn't hold them to under 100 points. This person said that this was a meaningless win. Let me see here. MKE at Mishka Katja said meaningless win because the old vets, Bojan, Burks, Kojo, led the way. It's even better to lose giving the young guys more minutes. And then he said the Heat scored. I said, man, defensively, they were pretty strong. This is one of their best efforts. Led by Stewart and Duran in the middle. He said that he scored 42 points in the paint, which ain't D. Bam still got his stats. D better on the perimeter with Kojo Bay. Don't think vets earning or eating minutes of Ivy, etc., is benefiting them in the long run.
Ivy played 26 minutes. What do people want? I mean, that's so. This is why I say so. You got to be pick and choose about who you engage with and when to engage.
Man.
Because it is, as much as I tried to do it, some people just are going to believe you could show them the entire playbook and the game plan and say, this is what they're trying to do. And they succeeded at all of these things. Check, 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 check. But they still didn't do this. They still gave up 42 points in the paint. Okay, cool. I mean, all right, whatever. I mean, 31% from three. Okay. What do you want? What do you want? Yeah. I don't know what to tell you. This is a Dwayne Casey team that shot 46% from three. 46% from three. When do you see that? I'm gonna say that's their highest 3-point percentage in the game this season.
46% from three, bro, in a game where
19
Stewart,
of
Ivy,
19
and
of
Hayes.
41.
Yeah,
19
bro,
of
that's
41.
in a game where Stewart, Ivy, and Hayes took a combined 11 threes. Think about that. Like, I don't know how people are finding any way to complain about this type of a solid win.
You're taking
scarce.
stuff away from the young guys. They should
Bro,
be
Ivy
shooting
had
more of
26
those
minutes.
threes.
Bojan had 30.
I mean, I don't know.
Duran had 18. Bagley had 19. Stewart clearly needed and deserved to have the 28 minutes he had. But 5 and 9 from the field tonight. He was really the only big man who had a pulse, I think, both ways, offensively and defensively. And it showed up in the stat sheet. Overall, I don't know what people were really wanting. I mean, Kojo had 25 minutes. That's not more minutes than J90. And did they need Kojo last night? They did. You don't take what good comes from not showing your team how to win a game on the road in a hostile arena, because Miami was jumping last night. What good comes from that? You know what I mean? Like,
that's the part that they don't get, is that you run into this, and we saw this the past couple of years, is that you run into this pattern of continuous losing, and you just feel like that's what you're supposed to do. And every once in a while, you need your vets to come out and say, okay, this is how you win. This is what we're supposed to be doing.
Yep.
Okay. So they shot 50% against Utah and 52% against the Kings, Sacramento, on that Western trip.
Man, they held Miami Heat to 42% shooting for the game and 31% shooting from three. And what's funny, the reason I wanted to highlight that is because you could almost tell the people that they're not really watching the game. They're not really looking at the ebbs and flows of the game. If the Miami Heat got 42 paint points, but they only shot 42%, that means that they got some putbacks or some things here and there that just kind of went their way. That's not really indicative of the defense that's being played.
Though, Brandon, you can't start doing complex thought, because that goes against the argument. It presents factual based statements that go against what they're saying.
Man, we're gonna move on to something I think is even crazier. Bleacher Report, man. And Pistons Power, shout out to them. They did an article as well, kind of detailing, why the Pistons would say yes, why they would say no. But I just wanted to get your thoughts on this. Me, man, listen, if there's any sound effects, shout out Sean Murphy from Half Court. I wish we had him in this whole bag of tricks this morning. I know he just to play whatever sound effect he had going on right now. I think I would choose the fart noise or something. Listen, bro, they're saying Pistons get John Collins from the Atlanta Hawks. Oh. 4. Corey Joseph, 2023 and 2024 second round picks, and Bojan Bogdanovic.
No. No. This is where Troy hangs up the phone. No. And don't call me back. I'm blocking your number. Get out of here.
This is when they call, and somehow Troy still gets John Collins and Bojan is still on the team.
Exactly.
This happened last year. Every time this stuff happens underneath the Troy tenure, and we got 2 years of it, man. I don't know. Some people say small sample size, but when you're fleecing guys like he is at the rate that he is, all the trades and such, this is almost like 3 or 4 years worth of GMing. And it's almost like something big is coming, and somebody's about to get fleeced by Troy Weaver.
Yeah. Let's take on John Collins and his 24 this year, 25 next year, 26.8 in 24-25, and 26.6 in 25-26. Let's take that contract on. Exactly. That's how stupid do they?
No.
So this is drummed up by somebody who's a Hawks fan and says, how can we get off of this contract and bring in Bojan and create some cap flexibility for ourselves? No,
and they trying to get all reliable.
Can't get all reliable.
They just, bro. This is when you're right. This had to be somebody outside of Detroit, man.
Right.
Nobody in Detroit would even include Corey Joseph in this. They know that's Casey's man.
John Collins and what? What else is Atlanta giving up in this deal?
Nothing.
They get out of here. Whatever.
Not even a second round swap.
Atlanta's not giving up something to come off that contract. That's why you kill the trade machine. Just you should be able to black trade machine from some people's machines when they do stuff like that.
I was like, man, get out of here with that one. For me, the question is, do you trade him for something to try and bolster the rebuild, or do you keep him for long term since you're getting closer to that window when you say you want to start to compete? Bojan Bogdanovic is showing to be, though people say they want to see a little bit more out of him defensively, I think he's giving the effort, and as his team gets better around him defensively, you're not going to be thinking about Bojan's defense. You're not going to be seeing it as having as something glaring or missing or needing to be improved as you get more defense around him. The impact that he has offensively is not something you can just like, oh yeah, he's just having a good season, let's just hurry up and trade him while he's hot. This is just who Bojan Bogdanovic is. This isn't some streak. This isn't something where you just go, yeah, let's just toss it. Right? I don't know if we've had a scorer like this, man. We've had some really good scores, and he's got to go up in that pantheon so far early on in his Pistons tenure. He's just a scorer. As a compliment to Cade Cunningham, a player who seeks to get others involved, and based on how those other guys are playing, gives him even more space to score in. Bojan Bogdanovic just seems to be the correct player to have next to Cade Cunningham. So when I think about this team long term, when I think about the program of it all, when I think about the types of vets you want at the end of the bench and things like that, I can see Bojan being one of those guys who just kind of finishes his career off here. I would like to see what type of players, what types of trades would be out there. Because to me, if you're talking about a Bojan type of player, I want somebody in return, center-wise or power forward-wise, who's going to really, really, really lock things down and not mess up the cap sheet going forward. Not a guy who we're still wondering, are they going to reach their full potential? If I'm trading Bojan, I want the guy that I know is the guy. I don't want another guy that could potentially be a project, that could potentially have these kind of flutters here and there. Oh, yeah, he looks like the guy today, and then tomorrow is just like for a whole week. I see Hawks fans. That's the reason why Collins is showing up too. It's not just the contract. For all the good that he has and that he does, I don't know, man. That makes me, not that I wouldn't want Collins on the Pistons, but for that trade, no way. No way.
All right, let me hit you with this. What is Bojan shooting from three for the season? Take a guess.
I'll put him a little bit higher than Burks, maybe like 39, 40%.
44.
What? Wait.
44.
Rod, that's the graphic for today, bro. You telling me he's shooting his jersey
number?
That man
is shooting his number. Last 3 games, what is he shooting from three?
Last 3 games today. Rod Beard, that boy is shooting his number.
Last 3 games, what is he shooting from 3?
You got to tell me. Because now I'm just like, I'm going to be woefully disrespectful.
14 of 19, 74. If you need him. Yeah, John Collins. Man, get out of here. Get away from me with that. 74 in the last 3 games, 44 for the year. Come on, man.
Dude, I don't. 74% in the last 3 games?
Last 3 games, 14 and 19.
Goodness gracious. Bro. 52% field goal percent. Yeah, 52% field goal on the season.
And people talking about John Collins.
Oh my word.
You better give me Doug Collins and John Collins.
Dude, he's hitting in his last 10. Let's give him a larger sample size. 50% from 3, Rod.
50.
A 50 piece. Field goal percentage and it's 55%. Wow. On the road, he's hitting 41% this season.
I was just about to look at splits. You know how I roll. I was just about to look at splits.
Ooh. He's doing this thing. Yeah, no, they're tripping, man. They're tripping. The way he took over that game offensively last night in the second half, he's not just a scorer, man. He's one of those guys whose scoring impacts the game. When the Pistons are in games while Cade has been out, primarily it's been when Bojan has been the guy absolutely going ham. And when he's going ham, just like when Cade Cunningham used to, you see things open up on the offensive side of the court for other people. You see the passing lanes start to open up. You see the cutting lanes start to open up. And I've been surprised with Bojan's ability. He don't got many assists, but I've been surprised with when he feels like, giving up those 1 or 2 or 3, passes a game. Some nice passes, man. Some nice passes. I put in the post-game article last night, man, on woodwardsports.com that he just kind of plays with this wry confidence that I absolutely love, man. I absolutely love it. I'm just like, yo, keep this guy in the Pistons uniform. I try to keep the fan in me kind of, during the season down, but this trade just kind of got me like a little perturbed. And then when we actually get into the numbers of it all, it's like, what do people actually think Bojan is doing here? This isn't even like if Sadiq was scoring, bro. Like, this is not like if Sadiq even scores 20. We get it. He's still figuring out the game. 3-point shooting is up and down. Or if Ivy scores 20 right now, they're figuring things out. This is a bona fide, solid, and I could go on forever, NBA all-star level scorer. I'm not gonna say he's an all-star player overall, but there's not too many people, man, that I've seen be able to go get buckets the way that Bojan has been able to.
Yeah, and you can look at more recently Blake's season, but that's an all NBA season. This is more, this dude is just out here trying to just get buckets and just do it in the flow. This is also not him hogging the ball and just putting the ball up whenever he wants to. This isn't him on ISO every time down the court, just trying to create. This is in the flow of what they're doing and finding the spots. I think it bodes well for the future. And even if they were to trade him, it raises the stakes on what you're able to get back in return.
Yeah. Obviously, if they were to trade him, that's a situation where it's one of those in Troy we trust. And all of these trades and acquisitions and draft picks, it seems like Troy knows the type of team he wants. And when one player goes, like I think he brought in Josh Jackson for a reason, then Alec Burks, Kevin Knox, those types of players are brought in right after them, kind of filling in that same mold, kind of having that same demeanor out there on the court, and doing it at a better pace, better rate. Even with the draft picks, brought Killian in. You want Killian here? Didn't waste any time bringing in Cade. You got Isaiah Stewart. Didn't waste any time bringing in Bagley. Didn't waste any time bringing in Duran. So I trust whatever he's going to do. You trade Jeremy Grant. We sat here saying, yo, they got a hole on the wing. Then right before the season, what does he do? He goes and brings in Bojan Bogdanovic.
So the only thing I will say about that is that it puts Sadiq in a little bit of a bad, I won't even say bad, an awkward spot. So Sadiq going to the bench and having to adjust to that role. And you mentioned how he's playing with Alec Burks and pairing with Alec Burks. Ideally, and Casey had this quote the other day that he views Sadiq as a starter, but this is just where they need him to be right now. And Sadiq is obviously doing what he needs to do and just kind of, hey, I got to walk the walk with this thing. That shows what type of guy he is, and it shows what type of coach Casey is, to say, I know this guy needs that kind of that push up to understand that we see him as a starter, but this is just what the roster is right now. And I think we said this earlier in the year too, is that you can't play both of them on the court. If you play Sadiq and Bojan, you're playing Bojan at the 4, and you're going to get out rebounded. You got to find a spot for Bagley and or Stewart and or Duran, whatever the case is. Yep. So that's, I think, the big question mark that's lingering for the year is, where do you go forward with Sadiq and Bojan? And if they are fielding calls for Bojan in a trade, I think it would be bigger than the stuff that we've seen so far.
Yeah, it would have to be. It would definitely have to be. Nobody should be untouchable on this team. To me, I think the most untouchable player is Cade Cunningham. I think that Jaden Ivey, hey, shout out to JD, one of the big bosses in the building, Woodward Sports. I believe that, Jaden Ivey, I think that his arc, he can get to being a 1B to Cade Cunningham's 1A, more of a Superman rather than like a Robin. I really believe that. But, with Sadiq Bay, it's an interesting thing here, because I do see where if Cade Cunningham, I believe, was more of just a facilitating point guard, I believe that you could play them together. Defensively, it gets a little tough, to play them. And that's what Casey talked about as well. It was kind of unfair for Bojan to be playing the 4, getting beat up in the paint. He just can't defend or rebound with those guys. But with the makeup of this team and with the talent that's being accrued, it's kind of a good problem. We've stated this before. It's not like the Pistons are making decisions over players historically, like, like Brandon Knights or Stanley Johnsons or even Greg Monroe's. These are players that they've considered a part of their actual core four. Players who have gone out there and accomplished and put up some pretty good feats and some pretty good stats in the seasons prior. It's not even like we're talking about Killian Hayes. Sadiq Bay is a player who's gone out there and put up 50. You know what I mean? And it's not like he's just done it once and then all the rest of his games are like 10-point games or scoring efficiencies like Killian. Sadiq is a pro. And other pros around the league, it's not as much as they talk about Cade Cunningham, but you hear people talk to his level of professionalism, his readiness. And I think chief of all the compliments that you want to hear is from your teammates. Cade Cunningham of all was talking about Sadiq Bay and that he's probably his most favorite teammate that he's played with to this point.
Yeah.
He spoke to his preparedness. He spoke to his professionality. He spoke to his work ethic. He spoke to his ability to just want to do anything and everything possible for the team. That to me, it gets a little tough. I want to see him put in his best position to succeed because the mentality is right. It's right up top. We talked about it all summer. We talked about it last summer. Why? Because this man is working out like a madman to the point that the team has to tell him relax, and then he goes and relaxes like a madman. Listen, if I'm gonna relax and be breathing, it's not gonna be easy, bro. So I'm going to the Colorado mountains. Like what, Sadiq? Chill, bro.
Exactly. I don't think he knows a slower pace, but I think it's the conversation to say we see you as certainly part of the long-term future of this team, but in the configuration of this roster that we have right now, we need you to do this, and he's good with that. And it's not the superstar syndrome of, well, trade me then. If I can't start right now, then trade me. And we're seeing superstars have issues with coaches, and the Trae Young thing and how all that boiled over. That you want young guys, and I think that's part of, you can credit Troy's drafting and getting high character guys who understand if this is for the team, then this is for the team.
Yep. And they're saying, and it's not a cop out. When I hear these guys say that, it's not like I see them regressing as players. I see them still working hard. I see them wanting to be out there on the court. I see them taking it passionately. I talked about this the other day. One of the best perspectives of being kind of on the beat this year, being in the room, seeing how some of the other beat writers do things. Man, shout out Mike Curtis of the Detroit News, their beat writer. It's an amazing thing to see the relationships develop because it's real. These players, they kind of let it all hang out. You see them limping to the press tables. You see them pissed. You see them sitting down and kind of banging their hands. You see them looking at the stat sheet before the press conference gets going, and you see that they care. That's way different. And I know that I've seen players, even though I haven't had that perspective before this year, you saw players that you just didn't know if they cared much, man. We've had players where people had to question their motor or their effort. I don't hear that this year. The most I've heard people say is their intensity, and that is something that sometimes you have to have tuned up. Sometimes you don't know. If I played too hard, am I knocking somebody over, getting fouls? Sometimes you don't know that you're big. Like Jalen Duren, sometimes in the beginning of the season, it didn't look like he knew what he was. Now he's looking like, I know what I am. Get out the way, or you're going to get dunked on. Like get out the way or you get blocked. That's what I'm starting to see out of these guys now, and I'm glad that they care. So you can't.
And every once in a while, you need, like we said earlier in the show, you need a win to solidify that. To say, hey, I've been in this slump. I haven't been doing well. I need something. But a win cleans up a lot of that, where you just say, okay, now you don't have those same questions about internally. We will as a team, but the fans and everybody else, and to us, we will say we didn't play our best, but we got a win. And we did on this night, 1 of 82. We did what we needed to do to win. And that's a cleansing sort of feeling of, even though you may not have played well or done everything you needed to do, you did enough to win on that day against a good team. This isn't you went out and beat Orlando or you beat Houston or something like that. You actually went out and beat a good team. Might have been shorthanded, but it doesn't show in the box score at the end of the day.
Yep. And one final point here with Troy Weaver and his perspective, being a part of building up some pretty good teams in the past, as well as his college experience in Syracuse. He's been around some really good players, including Carmelo. And he's been with really good players out in OKC, and he saw how that first team was put together. These guys and their egos, I think, stopped them from becoming a dynasty. Obviously, these players rightfully had the opportunity to go and lead their own teams. I'm not saying that Sadiq Bay is to the level of those players. Russ, KD, Harden, and Ibaka. But the way that he's putting this team together, it seems to be like you mentioned, those guys who kind of get the bigger picture of it all.
Mm-hmm.
When you're talking about a restoration, you're able to hold up the OKC team who broke it apart before they knew what they were going to be. At that time, it wasn't like these guys were the superstars that they developed into. But when you're able to compare that and contrast that to the bad boys, there were some players who didn't want to accept certain roles and they were shipped out. 4 players who could have been starters but accepted the role, and look how that blossomed. Look how people are remembered years later. Look at the championships that are celebrated years later, especially in a town like Detroit. So it's awesome to know that these players are listening and these players are willing, ready, and able to do whatever it takes for this team to take a step in the right direction, even in a year where there may be a lot of losses. So I commend Sadiq Bay on that. Casey has continued to state, the coaches were looking at what to do. Sadiq Bay has been completely open and been completely like, look, I'm here to do whatever you guys want me to do, period. And when you look at the history of Pistons teams, good Pistons teams, you need a guy. You need a guy. If Sadiq Bay is going to be off the bench or starting, you need a guy like him on your roster. He just kind of gives me that big nasty feel, man. Like, I'm not saying in terms of style of play, but in terms of his demeanor, Corliss Williamson is just a guy that, as of late, you remember how he used to play when he came in? It was just a business, man. Just kind of always had a scowl on his face.
Yep.
And if there was a player from that team that you would say was probably the Joker, it was Corliss Williamson, man. He came in to just blow things up on the other team. Offensively, defensively, he was just getting it in. And I want to see Sadiq kind of take that next step defensively too, kind of get nasty with it, even if the principles aren't there yet, even if the fouls may be there a little bit. I want to see what he can do defensively when he's just absolutely like, I'm locked in. He slimmed down. He said he wanted to get a little bit faster. I know his footwork can take a little step forward, of improvement, but I want to see him really take a step forward there. My homie Steve of Detroit Bad Boys, and he's going to be doing draft coverage for us here on Woodward Pistons. His comp to him was Caron Butler when he first came out. And I'm like, you know what? I can see that. Let me get that ball handling, the pick and roll offense that Dwayne Casey said he wants to see out of Sadiq Bay. And let me see a little bit more on the defensive end. And I think that's a good comp. Not as athletic as Caron, but game style. I could really see it. And with the demeanor of Big Nasty, Corliss Williamson, man. So I don't know if you have any final words, anything to say on Sadiq? Or
No. It's no, I got to run here in a sec too, but it is it is good to see that he's being a team player and that they're developing that chemistry on the bench with him and Burks. And it's still the pieces around that. I think the Cade injury is going to dictate a lot of what the rest of this year is about. And if you end up getting Killian back with that second group, seeing how effective he carries some of the things that he's done with that second group, and if it's still Sadiq and still Burks, then what else can he do with that? That's what I would be interested in seeing. And if he carries that confidence with them, then you can start to really see some benefit from that.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting thing. We always talk about Cade coming back and impact that can make, but when he comes back, he can have a residual impact with Cade, with Killian now being the guard off the bench rather than it being Kojo, which is what I know people probably want to see. They want to get to that point, but this way you have a Kojo here. I don't know how this would have looked if it was Saban Lee as a third guard off the bench. With Kojo here, you have an opportunity for your other young guys like Jalen Duren. Don't you need some reputable point guards to be able to run some pick and rolls and to be able to do some things rather than also trying to learn on the fly? You need a guard who knows what he's doing on the court sometimes to be able to work with these big men. Isaiah Stewart is still a young big man. You know what I mean? So you need at least one high IQ guard if Cade Cunningham is not going to be there, who can be a savvy guard as well, who just knows what he's doing at all times on the court. You're not going to be dealing with confidence issues or anything of that nature. Corey has no lack of confidence, bro. I love it. I hope he's finding a way to bottle that and sell that to everybody on the team, Killian. You know what I mean? And just
we try to tell people that, and no, Kojo needs to go. Kojo's horrible. I mean, okay, but what's your other plan? What you got?
Look,
nothing.
Bro, I want to go to Cedar Point with Kojo. Just somewhere fun. I want to go somewhere with him. Like he just seems like that type of dude. You know, I remember we were at the Top Golf thing for the Jeremy Grant Classic, and he was just funny, just fun. Like fans were like, "Yeah, well, hey, he's a Piston. He's He's funny. He's a cool dude. It was just cracking jokes with the team and everything.
And
It was a cool experience.
Always.
Yeah. Well, hey, look, I think that's a show, and we're gonna wrap it up right now. For Jeff Iafredi, wherever he is right now, somewhere. What'd you say on Hollywood? Somewhere on Hollywood.
He's doing this Beverly Hills Cop thing right now.
Yeah. Let's go, man. Look, for Jeff Iafredi of the Morning Woodward Show. My name is Detroit. My name is Detroit News. I was about to say Detroit News. My name is Detroit Kool-Aid.
There you go.
Yes, sir. And we're gonna get this drum roll going for the legend Detroit News, Rod Beard. Bro, thanks for rapping. It's always a good time when we have these basketball conversations, able to talk Pistons, bounce some ideas, hypotheticals, and everything else. So, hey, it's always good.